Ever find yourself kind of zoning out when you're trying to learn something new?
Yeah, definitely.
Like even if you're interested in the topic, maybe it's a class or a presentation,
Right.
and your mind just starts to wander.
Uh-huh.
Do you think that's just like a normal part of how our brains work? Or like is there some kind of limit to how long we can actually pay attention?
I think it's a really common experience.
Yeah.
And, it kind of feeds into this idea that's been around for a while, especially in education, that we just can't focus for that long in like a lecture setting.
Right, like after 10 or 15 minutes tops.
Yeah, exactly. That's kind of the classic assumption.
Yeah.
And that's actually what we're going to be digging into today. We're going to look at this really cool study
Okay.
that actually used some pretty interesting technology to figure out what's really going on with attention in a classroom.
So like with actual students.
With actual students, yeah.
Okay.
So the study is called Investigating Student Sustained Attention in a Guided Inquiry Lecture Course using an eye tracker.
Wow. That's a mouthful.
It is a mouthful.
But it sounds very thorough.
Yeah, very descriptive.
Huh.
It's by Rosengrant, Harrington, and O'Brien.
Okay.
And it was published in 2021 in Educational Psychology Review.
So instead of just asking students like, hey, were you paying attention?
Right, or relying on the teacher's impression,
Huh?
this study used eye trackers
Oh, wow.
to see exactly where students' eyes were going.
Okay, interesting.
So they could get this like second-by-second record of what was grabbing their attention.
So like throughout a whole class period.
Exactly.
Okay, so our mission today is to sort of unpack what this research tells us about how attention actually works when we're trying to learn new things, what really captures our focus, and if the way something is taught can make a difference in keeping us engaged.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's really what we're hoping to understand better.
Yeah, because if there are ways to make learning more engaging, who wouldn't want to know that?
Absolutely.
Right.
So let's maybe start with that common belief that we were just talking about. This idea that attention spans are pretty short, especially in lectures.
Uh-huh.
The researchers in the study point out that this isn't a new idea.
Right.
It's been around for decades.
Yeah.
They actually cite a bunch of older studies,
Okay.
some going back to like the 70s,
Right.
that seem to support this idea of a rapid decline in attention during lectures.
Uh-huh.
But they also highlight that not everyone agrees with this conclusion.
Okay, interesting.
So some researchers have argued that maybe it's not the lecture format itself that's the problem.
Okay.
Maybe it's more about the instructor style or even potential issues with how those earlier studies were designed.
Right, like maybe they weren't actually measuring attention very accurately.
Exactly.
Okay, so this study wanted to be a little more rigorous.
Yeah, they really wanted to take a more objective look at attention.
Okay, and how did they actually go about doing that?
So this is where the cool technology comes in.
Okay, the eye tracker.
Yeah, they use these things called Tobii glasses, which are essentially portable eye trackers.
Oh, like glasses.
Like regular glasses, yeah. But they have these tiny cameras and infrared lights
Huh.
that can track the movement of your pupils.
Okay.
So basically, they can record exactly what you're looking at.
So they had students wear these?
Yeah, they had 17 undergraduate students, mostly women, which reflected the demographics of the course,
Okay.
wear these glasses during their physical science classes.
Okay, and this was over multiple semesters, right?
Yeah, they collected data across 5 semesters.
Oh, wow, that's a lot of data.
It is a lot of data,
Yeah.
both in 70-minute and 50-minute class sessions.
Okay, so they could really see what happens over time.
Exactly. And
Okay.
for every single second of that data,
Wow.
they coded whether the student's gaze was on task or off task.
No.
So on task meant they were looking at something related to the class,
Right.
like the professor,
Yeah.
the whiteboard,
Okay.
their notes, or even classmates if they were having a discussion or working on an assignment together.
Okay, makes sense.
And then off task was stuff like looking at other classmates when it wasn't related to the lesson.
Uh-huh.
Maybe using their computers for non-class things,
Yeah.
looking around the room,
Yeah.
doodling,
Oh,
anything not related to the class.
you're daydreaming out the window.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They also accounted for times when there wasn't any active instruction happening
Okay.
and moments where the eye tracker just couldn't get a reading for whatever reason.
Like a technical glitch?
Yeah.
Okay, so they were pretty thorough in how they categorized everything.
Yeah.
All right, so the big question is,
Yeah.
what did they find out about attention spans?
Right. Did it actually drop off like we often hear?
After 10 minutes, is everyone just checked out?
So what they found was pretty surprising.
Okay.
At the very beginning of class, students started with about 67% of their attention on task.
Okay, so that's already more than half.
It is more than half, yeah.
So here's the interesting part. Within the first 7 to 9 minutes, that on-task attention actually increased to over 90% on average.
Wow.
Yeah,
So it went up.
it went up,
Interesting.
and it pretty much stayed at that high level for the rest of the class.
So the takeaway there is
Yeah.
forget that old rule about tuning out after 10 minutes.
Right.
Actually, when learning is active and engaging, your focus can actually increase and stay strong.
Yeah, that's a really important takeaway.
Yeah.
They also found that those periods of on-task attention, they called them on-task spans,
Okay.
tended to be longer and more frequent than off-task spans.
Okay, so we're more likely to be focused,
Yeah.
not focused.
For longer periods of time.
Interesting.
And that really suggests that the way a class is structured and the level of interaction can have a big impact on keeping students engaged.
Okay, so what about the initial dip in attention, though?
Right.
Like you said, it starts at 67%.
Yeah.
So there's still that little bit at the beginning where maybe people aren't quite focused yet. Yeah, and the researchers had a couple of ideas about why that might be.
Okay, what are they?
So one possibility is that the eye tracker itself was a bit of a distraction at first.
Like getting used to wearing it.
Yeah, just adjusting to having this new thing on your face.
Uh,
They also thought that maybe students are still kind of settling in mentally at the start of class.
Yeah.
Maybe they're reviewing notes from the last session.
Okay.
Or just not quite ready to jump into the new material.
Right, so it takes a few minutes to kind of get into the groove.
Exactly.
Okay, so once students were focused, though,
Yeah.
what were they actually looking at?
So the whiteboard was the main attraction.
Okay,
Students spent almost a third of their time looking at it.
like 33%.
Yeah, about 33%.
Wow.
Which makes sense because that's often where the key information is presented.
Right, notes, diagrams, all that stuff.
Exactly.
Okay.
And then the professor themselves came in second,
Okay,
with students looking at them about 26% of the time.
so a little less,
A little less, yeah,
but still significant.
definitely.
Okay.
And then their own notes were about 22%.
Okay, so basically those three things were where they focused most of their attention.
Yeah, those are the big three.
The professor, their notes.
Uh-huh.
Okay, but what about when their attention drifted?
Yeah. Where did their eyes go when they weren't on those key things?
Uh-huh.
So the most common off-task behavior was just looking around the classroom.
Okay, so not necessarily at anything specific,
Not necessarily.
just kind of scanning the room.
Yeah, maybe a little zoning out.
Uh-huh.
But it was only about 3.5% of their total gaze time.
Okay.
So still a pretty small amount overall.
Uh-huh. And what about things like looking at their phones or doodling?
Those are even less frequent.
Okay, so really not that much off-task behavior?
No, not really.
Okay, so they're mostly focused on the right things.
Right.
But how long could they actually maintain that focus?
Right. You mentioned vigilance spans earlier.
Yeah.
So they looked at how long students could stay continuously on task. They defined 3 levels: high, medium, and low.
Okay.
So high was 90 to 100% on task within a 1-minute window.
Okay.
Medium was 70 to 89.99%, and low was less than 70%.
Okay, so those are pretty clear categories.
Yeah.
And what did they find out about those spans?
The high on task spans were the most common.
Okay, so that's good news.
Yeah, it
Okay.
is.
Yeah.
And they were also the longest. Some of them lasted up to 67 minutes.
Wow. An hour of basically focused attention.
It's pretty impressive, right?
Okay.
Especially when you consider that whole idea that attention drops off after 10 minutes.
Right, that's a huge difference.
It is.
Uh-huh.
And then the low-level spans where they were mostly off task rarely lasted longer than 6 minutes.
Okay, so short bursts of distraction.
Basically, yeah.
Okay.
They also found way more on-task spans that were longer than 5 minutes compared to the medium and low levels.
Okay, so that really reinforces the idea that students were able to sustain their attention.
Exactly.
Okay, one thing I'm wondering is,
Yeah.
did the eye trackers themselves affect how students paid attention?
That's a good question.
Yeah, like maybe they were more conscious of their focus because they knew they were being watched,
Right.
or maybe they just got used to wearing them over time.
So the researchers actually looked into that.
Okay.
They compared students who only wore the tracker for a few sessions to
Wow.
those who wore it for the whole semester,
Okay.
and they didn't find any significant difference in their attention patterns.
So basically the eye tracker itself wasn't a big factor.
No, it doesn't seem like it.
Okay, that's good to know because it means we can trust the results a little more.
Exactly.
Okay, so putting it all together, what are the big takeaways from this study?
I think the most important message is that this whole idea of attention declining rapidly in lectures might not be true,
Okay.
especially when the learning environment is engaging and interactive.
Like with the guided inquiry approach they used in this study.
Exactly. The structure of the course, the teaching methods, all of that can make a huge difference in keeping students focused.
And for those of us who are trying to learn new things, this is really good news.
Absolutely.
It means we have more control over our attention than we might think.
Yeah. And it also highlights how important it is to find learning environments and methods that work for you.
Right, because what works for one person might not work for another.
Exactly.
So this raises an interesting question.
Okay, what is it?
If active engagement is so important for attention,
Yeah.
what other things, besides the instructor's style or the teaching method, might be playing a role in keeping us focused?
That's a great question.
Right, like what about the physical space?
Yeah.
Or the time of day? Or even just our own mindset going into a learning situation?
Right, all of those things could definitely have an impact.
Yeah, so it's not just about the instructor. It's about the whole learning ecosystem.
Exactly.
Okay, so if you're interested in learning more about all of this
Yeah.
and, diving deeper into the science of learning and educational psychology, we highly recommend checking out the full paper.
Yeah, it's definitely worth a read.
It has even more detail than we could cover here.
Definitely.
So that's it for this deep dive.
Thanks for joining us.
We hope you found it insightful.
See you next time.
Bye.